brains, space storms, and stories that make sense of it all. This episode of ADHD Eavesdrop features author and former academic Adva Shaviv, joining me from the Netherlands to talk about late diagnosed ADHD, burnout, and parenting while neurodivergent. We also talk journaling, block scheduling, sensory needs, writing fiction. If you've ever felt like you're doing too much and still falling short, this one's for you. Come on in and be a butterfly on the wall and listen in on our conversation. Welcome, Adva.
Thanks, Janine. It's so great to be here.
It is wonderful to have you. So, Adva, I like to start with my interviewees who have ADHD. I like to hear their diagnosis story, what it was when they were growing up and then when they got diagnosed and how things changed. Can you kind of just give us a quick input on that one?
Absolutely. So as a late diagnosed, it was a huge difference between the time before and the time after. Growing up, I knew there was something different. I actually often thought about it like there's something wrong with me, which I couldn't put my finger on. And what made it worse was that nobody else thought there was anything wrong with me. They just thought I was sometimes weird or overreacting. You probably know what I'm talking
yeah.
about, all of these things. But I felt there was something different and I couldn't put my finger on it, and it was maddening. Not always. It's not like I spent my entire childhood wondering what's wrong with me and what can I do to change it. But occasionally it did occur to me that other people are not like that. And certain things that used to happen to me didn't happen to other people. Like, just a small example. My parents would leave the house and tell me, of course, where they're going. And an hour or 4 hours later, I would lift my head up from the book I was reading and think, where are my parents? And why didn't they tell me where they were going? And when are they coming back? And what the hell is going on?
Did they just leave? What the
Yeah. Of course. First, I had to find out that I was on my own
heck?
because
Like,
I wouldn't
Mom?
remember.
Mom.
Yeah, exactly. And why is she answering? What is she? What's going on?
I love that so much. Oh, yeah. Because when you get in that hyper-focus state like that, you really do nothing else
Yeah,
exists. And then all of a sudden you're like,
exactly.
wait, the world has continued without me.
Especially when I'm reading, like, there's this world in the book.
Exactly. You have been living life. You've just been living it in a book.
Exactly. So I was only diagnosed at the age of around 37. And that was actually after I finished my PhD, which was excruciating. I did finish, but it was I didn't know why I spent so many hours for every stupid article just to read it, and again and again and again, same paragraph, same paragraph. What was I reading? What was going on? And I loved reading, but yeah, it was really hard.
Technical reading is so different than like a
Yeah,
novel or a story. And
yeah.
technical reading can be really difficult for people with ADHD.
Yeah, and the most difficult thing was that I had to remember it was in philosophy, so it's not so much technical as holding all of the ideas in my head at the same time and form my own opinion about what I'm reading and remember how I need to connect it to whatever I'm writing and to my own thesis, and it would drive me mad. So either I could hope hyperfocus, which I often did, otherwise I would never have finished even now, or I just couldn't get any work done. And yeah, it was quite frustrating, but luckily it's done. And
So,
then when I finally did get diagnosed, my doctor said that, yeah, it's actually quite common because of overcompensating, which you are probably very much aware of, Janine. So that was probably what I did, just again
yeah.
and again and again, and never giving up and gathering all my strength and all my energy and all of the positive thoughts and hope I could gather and persevering until I finished. But the diagnosis was a blast. I did hear about ADHD. That's how eventually I did go to have a diagnosis. But it was it was a game changer because it wasn't just me being weird. It wasn't just me being such a failure. And again, You said you'd work for 8 I'm talking to myself in the second person. So you said you would work for 8 hours and you just got 1 hour out of it, and you did sit here for 8 hours and you wasted all this time. Why? Why? And again and again and again. No, it's me. This is my brain. And I do see the positives in it, which took some time, of course. It took quite a lot of time,
Did
but
you
I
have
got.
that same sensation I had when I got diagnosed and people said, "Of course you have ADHD." Did you have that happen?
Not so much actually, because I think I was among the first people within my circle to actually
Mm.
get diagnosed. And later, yeah, one friend here and another friend there and another. Oh, really? And what do you feel like? Really? Wait, that sounds too familiar. So I've had quite a number of friends diagnosed thanks to me.
'Cause you're
But
like,
I was
you should
rather the
probably check this
first.
out." So is your doctorate in philosophy?
Yeah, yeah,
That is so fascinating to me. I love to philosophize.
as you should.
A lot of us ADHDers do. It's a
Yeah.
very thought and provoking area to go into, and if you're interested in it, it's very worthy of a hyper focus.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. It's a hole that you can, it's a rabbit hole that you can
Yes,
never leave. So
absolutely. So many things
it's,
that you just said resound with me so much, growing up. Same thing. I always felt like, I was the odd dog, I was like, I was always odd, but people liked me, but I didn't believe they liked me. I just thought that they were being nice to me because I had the, rejection sensitive.
yeah,
And so I would have lots of friends, but I didn't believe a single one of them really liked me all that.
it's
Now I
just
realize they
frustrating.
actually did. So you have gone through, you did your doctorate before you got your diagnosis. I did the same before I got my diagnosis. I got my master's degree. Did it with two young children at home and while I was working a full-time job and all those things. And some people would say that's so much to get through. But because ADHD has made us resilient through our entire lives, we don't give up a lot of times.
That's true. We're fighters.
We are fighters,
Yeah,
fighters, and we will sometimes push ourselves to the limit and beyond because of that, and then sometimes it
yeah.
becomes a problem, but in a lot of cases, having ADHD just makes you too darn stubborn to not do what it is that you wanna do,
It's
right?
absolutely true. Absolutely. And I agree with you perfectly that there's the side of, I didn't know it was impossible, so I just did it. But then there's also the side of getting yourself overworked and overdone. And that's not good. Never knowing when to stop. And you can reach bottom lows.
Yes, well, and
Yeah,
that's
that
when
can be,
burnout happens, and we burn out really fast.
yeah,
And that's one of the big things when I coach is working with people who are burning out. They're in the process of, "I can't do this anymore," and we push ourselves to that point, and then trying to figure out how to stop the burnout in its tracks is really tough to do and sometimes almost impossible. I retired early because of I say it was because of everything that was going on in my district and all of this other stuff, but when I really look at it, my ADHD had a lot to do with it. I was burnt out. I was overwhelmed and I was not functioning well. So, now have you had a career?
yeah. So 1 or 50, I'm not really sure.
Bingo. Because I've been in education. I was in education for 30 years, but I never stayed in the same job for more than 5 to 8.
It's too much. It's too much, and
Tell
you
me.
get a new idea, and you have to follow it, and this life becomes the same, and you just need to change it. It's impossible. But yeah, now I understand that all of it had to do with ADHD, and I even believe that to some extent, everything we do and everything we are is to some extent related to ADHD. It's so basic. It fills everything. So of
Absolutely.
course
Well,
we're
it's
each
just part
different, but it
It's
has
just
a
part of who you
relation.
are, and because like you said, if you don't know you can't do it, you just go ahead and do it. It's the same thing with the ADHD, if you don't know you have it, you just go ahead and have it and do the best you can and think that everybody else is doing the same thing.
Exactly. That is a shock, I think, to each and every one of us when we realize that for most people, it's not like that. They want to do something, so they figure out what they need to do, what the steps are, and they go and do every step one after the other, and and then they're just finished, and that's it. But I think that's one of the things which I do envy them sometimes. But I think this is what makes many people call it sometimes a superpower, which I don't fully agree with, but I get where it's coming from
Mhm.
because yeah, we cannot do things the regular way. There is no regular way for us. So we have to be creative. It's not possible to have ADHD and not be very creative. It doesn't have to be like I'm sitting here, if I may boast, in my son's music studio. As you can see, that's not me playing. I'm writing, but not playing. But not necessarily this kind of creativity, but the way we think, the way we come up with decisions, with ways of action, with even our goals. Even setting goals is different. Like homeschooling, when everyone around me told me, "But how can you do this?" And it's nobody does that. As we hear, it's not like in the U.S. It's not very
Not common.
people don't know it. Yeah, don't know exactly what it is. How are you going to do it? And it was so really among the well, it was 12 years, so quite a long period. So I can't really say the best 12 years of my life, but it was amazing, an amazing experience that nothing really comes close to it because every day I would just have dozens of new ideas and I got to try them out with my kids. What could be better?
Right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. I remember when I was teaching, I realized that not every teacher functioned the same way I did as far as like lessons went because I would go in with a lesson idea, right? And as I'm walking in the door, I might change my mind and decide I'm going to do something else. Or I might get, 3 or 4 minutes into the lesson, not see any sparks happening in the classroom and completely shift gears and do something completely different. You know, I was always doing stuff like that. And then I found out other teachers are like, "Well, if I don't have it planned, it's not happening."
exactly it. Exactly. So it's more difficult to follow a plan, but we're much more prone to find alternatives, to just at the spur of the moment go another way because it's better.
Absolutely, and that's why I don't script this. That's why I don't script the show, because I know our ADHD brains, when they go off on little tangents, those tangents are a lot more fun than some scripted question I coulda asked you, and so I don't do that, not to mention the fact I'm not good at memorizing scripts, even though I'm
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. I don't think if you had scripted it, I don't think any of the conversations would really have gone the way you planned it.
wouldn't have mattered anyway, we would have ended up wherever we wanted to go. My gosh,
Exactly.
and it's funny because I do act as well, and I have to memorize those scripts, and it's so hard to memorize for me.
I don't know how
And
you do that.
I did a few years ago, I was so proud of myself, I'm just gonna throw that out there. I was very proud of myself, I was in Hamlet, so I memorized Shakespeare, and that was really difficult for me. But I realized when I was doing the memorization, I had to do it completely rote. It couldn't mean anything. Like, if the words took on meaning for me, then I would start messing up. So it had to be just rote memorization. And I realized when I was doing that, that for students, for kids, that's what they're doing for tests. They're just memorizing that fact and it doesn't even mean anything to them. They just recognize it.
That is so true. That is so true.
It's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this is why. This is how this happens. So when you worked with when you were teaching at home, that's a lot of organization.
Yeah, actually, I'm not that bad at organization. Sometimes I'm amazing at organization. I have Trello boards, like I don't know how many. I stopped counting. And everything is organized in the boards. Now, in real life, it's kind of like you said, you're entering the classroom and off the window flies the whole plan. Yeah, so that's how it goes.
Absolutely.
So we did have plans. They were nice plans, and we had great time. The overlap, well, it was partial, let's say the least.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know about you, but like as a teacher and as a mom, it must have been even more intense is because as a teacher, you see a spark in their little eye where "Oh, I got their attention. This is interesting." I love to go where they're going in their head and chase that. Harder to do in a classroom of 30 kids than, when you're homeschooling. Did you do that a lot? Go off on their
All the
tangents?
time, all the time. That was the greatest thing about homeschooling, in my opinion. Exactly as you described it. You see the spark and you go there, you follow it. Because otherwise, what's the point? Like you said, we didn't have exams. And my kids, they're adults now, but they didn't have any exams. They just went on to open universities, got a first year diploma, and then continued with this to academia. But no, we didn't have any exams because I just didn't see the point.
So I'm curious because time blindness is a big thing when it comes to ADHD. When I taught history and I taught social studies, and I didn't make my kids memorize dates. I made them memorize decades. So like we would look at a decade and we would say, what are the things that happened during this decade? Put them in order. If you can put them in order, you're good. But I didn't do dates. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I hated dates as a pupil myself. Actually, I hated history as a pupil. I did go to school for 12 years and I did do exams. And I thought I hated history with all my heart until at the 11th grade. I don't know how you call it in the US, but the 11th grade, when I was already 17, I finally had a teacher and I remember how he described Napoleon's soldiers with their hair flying in the wind and the determined, I don't know, how they rode their horses. And then I finally realized these are stories. It was the first time.
Oh my God.
First time after 11 years of studies that I realized that history is a story. So to my children, I just taught the stories. And yeah, we didn't care much about the dates. We did care about the general time, the epoch, yeah, and where more or less it was. But yeah, it didn't make a lot of difference if this event happened before or after that, if it didn't have a direct connection. And if it did, then we could draw on the connection. It's like a plot. So, this happened because this happened or in relation to this. And that makes sense. And that is something that you can remember when you insert a sort of connection, then you can remember that. But otherwise, I don't know. Why would anyone remember
Why do
that?
I even care about this, right?
I don't know.
So that brings us to you're writing a book and you are very much in tune with the reading community of ADHDers. Can you tell me more about that?
Happily. So I started actually in 2019. It's far too long ago, and I'm still not finished with my debut book.
Stubbornness, there it is.
Yeah, but I'm still here. And I think it's 100% because of ADHD, but both the good and the bad. So the good is that the whole idea for a cozy fantasy inspired by ADHD sprang, of course, from my own life and my own experiences, but also I've met so many people with ADHD along the way. So it's inspired by each and every one of them because we're each different, even though there is something that connects us, we're of course each unique. And the idea was, at first I thought about it as like we talked about the idea of a superpower. Maybe there's this fantastic world where my protagonists are Tom, Alice, and George, who are siblings. They are 15, 13, and 11 years old. And I thought that maybe they would go into a fantastic world which has gives them superpower for having ADHD. And I didn't really like that idea after mulling it over for a while because it's not exactly that. It's different. And sometimes it works to our advantage and sometimes not so much. So there is a fantastic world. It's a portal fantasy. There is a fantastic world. It is deeply inspired by ADHD and has a deep connection, which I will not say now because it's a kind of a spoiler. And they act differently there because of ADHD. So there are things that they can gain which they can't do in the real world because of that. and they also affect how they manage in the real world after that. But it's mostly about the fact that I think our brain is a sort of fantasy in itself. When I imagine what it's like inside, it's very stormy, of course, but it's also very magical. Yeah, so it's magic. Sometimes it's dark magic. I agree,
Okay. So you
but
get
it is
deeply into, so what age group is this written for? Is it an adult book?
well, actually, it's adult, but I think it's just adult because I think people with ADHD can read it and connect to it whatever age they have.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I don't know. It's how I felt like. There's also the mother, of course, in the book, which is pretty much
You.
myself. Yeah, pretty much. She's more of a secondary character, but she's there. And because I've been told that if there's an adult person's POV, there are multiple points of view. Sorry, I'm speaking in a yeah. So if there are multiple points of view and one of them belongs to an adult, then it has to be an adult's book. So okay, it's an adult's book. I don't care about such definitions. But there's nothing in it that prevents children or young adults from reading it. On the opposite.
So not two adult themes, just
No, no, nothing actually about adult themes because that's not the point. The point is to get into our mind, our unique perspective. I'm speaking as if it's one. Of course, it's not just one perspective, but seeing the different perspectives or sort of
absolutely.
a kaleidoscope of perspectives that make up the ADHD brain if you don't have ADHD and you don't understand what it's like, and seeing yourself in the book if you do have it. And I think it's another thing it's very much missing from literature to actually come across an overtly an explicit ADHD character, because there are many characters that I can see myself in. I recognize they have ADHD traits to this extent or another, but explicitly ADHD is still rather uncommon, and I think it's missing. It's different. It's
Love
like,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. It's not enough to have someone say, "Oh, they're a little like me," but are they really? Yes, they are. They say it, and they use
Absolutely.
a different name for it, which is something because ADHD, like attention deficit and
Right?
disorder? No, there's no deficit and it's not a disorder. My mind is not orderly, okay? I don't presume. No, okay. But that's not the thing. It's a difference. It's not a deficit. So in my book, it's called added because we have added energy, added distractions, added everything. It's it's like we have too much
So
of
are you saying we're a
everything.
little extra?
Yeah, we are. We are. We definitely are. And it's okay.
Yeah,
And it's okay.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
you said something that like really caught my attention. You said it's stormy in your,
Yeah. Very much.
yeah, no, is it like a dreary like thunderstorm or is it okay?
It could be. It could be a thunderstorm. In my specific mind, I feel like it's a space. First of all, I was often called spacey as a child, and yeah, it's true. It's true. There's a space, and sometimes you just see stars moving about, having no idea where they're going or why. And sometimes you reach the stars.
There
So
you
it
go. I
depends
like
on
that.
yeah, depends on how you see that. But yeah, there are also space storms, which can be quite unpleasant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Now I have in my head when I think about what's going on up there, I think of a group of unruly people working in
a
an
bit like
office together.
Inside Out.
And yeah, kind of, working in an office together, creating chaos, papers are flying everywhere, and people are like, "Where is this? Where is that? What did I do? This is what I see what's going on in my head," you know? And then there's like the one person in the corner who's just crying.
It makes so much sense.
It's my head. It's very, active. I used to say that my brain is a lot like a gumball machine. There's lots of pretty thoughts up there, but no organization whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the thing, because sometimes, because of this chaos, it's like two entirely disconnected thoughts just roam about and hit together, and there's a new one, and it's never been there before or anywhere else for that matter. So I think this is part of the what makes us innovative, because even research shows that we are more innovative, statistically speaking. I think
I'm
that's how
loving
it
this
happens.
analogy. I want to go further with this. Okay, so you got two thoughts bouncing around in your brain that would not, if you were a neurotypical person, would stay in their place,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And they would never meet and you would never get that. But because we have all that bouncing around going on up there, we get pews all over the place. And that's dopamine, dopamine, dopamine right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually use butterflies because they're the symbolism of coaching and the transformation that you can make through coaching.
That's beautiful.
So that's why I use it. And now I just love butterflies.
But it's beautiful because I think it also represents ADHD, with all the thoughts that are on the one hand free, but then on the other hand flittering and going from one flower end to the next and have no actual plan behind it. Or at least to us, it looks that way. But
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I didn't even think about that. Yes, it's like a little ADHD brain.
yeah, so it's a perfect combination for you.
Well, Adva, we have had a great conversation, and believe it or not, we've been talking for a while. But I always like to give one last question to give my guests a chance to have the last word, and it's not always the same question. But here's my question for you because you're coming to me from the Netherlands. My question is if you were able to go back to when you first started homeschooling and people didn't really know about know about what it was like in the Netherlands and stuff. And you had a friend who came to you and said, "Look, I have two ADHD kids and I'm thinking I want to homeschool them." What would your advice be?
I get that question all the time. I have people from all over the world consulting about starting to homeschool their children. And I think for people with ADHD, it's a great opportunity. It's not going to work for everyone because some kids really need a sort of structure, even if it's difficult. Still, it's more difficult for them without any sort of structures. It's not going to work for everyone. Also, it's not going to work for every parent, naturally.
Right.
You have to you have to want it. You have to It's not like you have to be sure that you can do it. I wasn't. I was absolutely unsure and I had terrible doubts, but I think that doubt keeps you moving because if you just trust that you're doing the right thing, you're most probably not. If you keep asking yourself, is this the right thing? What actually matters? What do I need to do? How do I need to do it? Why does it matter? Maybe I'm all wrong. Maybe I should reconsider everything. That's the way to go, and that's the way that that's education, in my opinion. And then it might work. But if you do try to do it, then also there are a ton of ways it can be, from unschooling at one end to a very structured sort of home schooling at home, which might actually work for some people. For me, it couldn't work, also because I have ADHD. So no, not for me.
I bet it was
But
fun at
it's
school for you with like your kids. I bet the kids were like, "Yay, I love mom as a teacher." Well, thank you again. I have had such a good time talking with you today. I have enjoyed the laughter. I love the fact that you have such a great sense of humor. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Janine. I really didn't notice it was so long. I thought we've been talking for maybe 20 minutes or so. So you get that I really liked talking to you.
Good. Good. Yeah, because it always flies by and then it's like all of a sudden here we are at the end.
Yeah.
So, with that, though, if our butterflies on the wall liked what they were listening to and heard our conversation and enjoyed it, they should like, subscribe, hit the bells, do all the whistles, and all those things. And with that, we'll see you next time.